Progress.
Recording. So I'll call the May, what day is it today? May 5th Turnigan Community Council meeting to order. And we will run through our agenda in a second. But first, I just want to remind folks once again, if you're on Zoom, if you haven't done so already, please update your first and last name in the Zoom name and include whether you're a member or a guest. And just a reminder, if you live in the area, if you own property in the area, if you're representing an organization who is based in this area as the designated representative, then you would be considered a member. So even if this is your first meeting, that's how our membership works. And then otherwise you would be a guest, including if you're, from live in another area, but here to present. So why don't we go ahead and do our usual introductions. So I'll call out folks that I see on the chat. So my name is Anna Brawley. I'm the chair of the council, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. I also see we have Kathy Gleason, our vice president. We have Stephanie Quinn Davidson and Carolyn Hall, our at-large members. We have our awesome secretary, Kathleen Belaski, who will be taking notes. And then our last member will give an update in a few minutes. But with that, why don't we move to approval of the agenda? So I'll go ahead and put it on the screen. It was also shared out in our email a couple days ago. And here, I'll just scroll down a little bit. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda, and then we can deal with any additions or changes in a second.
This is Carolyn. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks.
Kathy Gleason.
Motion by Carolyn, second by Kathy. Are there any changes, corrections, additions to the agenda? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So is there any objection to approval? Okay, great. I'm not seeing objection to approval, so we'll consider the agenda approved. Let's see, our next item is approving our prior meeting minutes. So those were the April 7th minutes. We posted them to the website. And thanks again to Carolyn for stepping in and for Kathleen for making sure that they were ready for our meeting. So could I also ask for a motion and a second to approve our minutes?
I'll move to approve, Anna.
Okay, motion by Kathy.
Kathy Gleason.
Second by John Isaacs.
Okay, thanks, Kathy and John. Is there any corrections? And of course, I'll say that what we usually do, which is if we see typos or things that don't change the intent or the character of the minutes, but need to be corrected, we will also make those as well. Is there any glaring issues in the minutes? Oh, and we'll also remove the highlights. I know those were still in there as well. Okay, I'm not hearing any changes. So is there any objection to approval of the April minutes? Okay, not seeing any. So we will consider the April minutes approved. Thanks, everyone. So then we'll move on to announcements. And so I have a couple announcements and before we get to our board report, but also we have a guest from Jay Bear, Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson. So I'll go ahead and say my announcements and then I'll recognize you, Denny. In terms of announcements, just a couple citywide things that I'm aware of anyway, is the Anchorage Chamber is doing their citywide cleanup for May. So that started on May 1st and it runs through, I believe, the 28th. So right before the end of, or right before Memorial Weekend. At this point, Turnigan hasn't organized a team, but I would encourage you to check out the Anchorage Chamber's website. You can organize a team of neighbors. It's really easy. It's free. They'll give you the bags for cleanup, or there's a map, I believe they do every year, of all of the different events around town. So please feel free to join one of those. Or if you and some neighbors want to get together, please feel free to do that. We'd love to see that. And then the other announcement, I am actually blanking on, so I'm gonna move on from there. But again, if folks do have announcements, please feel free to also use the chat to get them out there. And if you haven't signed up lately or not aware of the Federation of Community Councils mailing list, you can sign up at communitycouncils.org. I'm gonna put that in the chat real quick. And basically, you can not only sign up for our neighborhood announcements or our community council, but any community council you'd like to keep track of, even if you're not a member. So for example, I work downtown, so I've signed up for those as well. And you can also get citywide updates, which is really great. I know they come from the administration, from the assembly, from other folks who send out things like the citywide cleanup. So it's a really great way to stay involved and to stay informed. So with that, I'll
And if I could interject, and Anchorage Waterways Council is also doing month-long creek cleanup. And so teams, just like with the chamber, can form and go ahead. And so if anybody's interested in that, contact the Anchorage Waterways Council.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Definitely the time of year to clean up after the winter and make sure the city's looking good for summer. So with that, I will turn it over to Denny. So go ahead.
There we go. I think I'm off mute now. Thank you, Anna. Hi, everybody. I'm Denny Hofstadter. I work in the community engagement section of the J-Bear Public Affairs Office. I work with 3 other individuals, and we try to attend as many of the community council meetings as we possibly can. So that's kind of why I'm on tonight, just to let you know a couple of the things that are going on at J-Bear. Thanks to Anna's navigational assistance, I was able to put a list of the things that we have going on in the chat box, I guess, is what you call it. And she said she would also post it to your website after the meeting is over. I'll just mention, touch on a couple of them here in the interest of time. And then you can read the others at your leisure. But a couple of big things going on right now is that the Boniface Visitor Center at the Boniface Gate, it's finally open and looks really nice. The new building they put up, and they also have expanded parking there as well if you need to stop in there for ID purposes or anything like that. It is now open, which means the Fort Rich Visitor Center is closed. It'll be closed until September. They're going to be doing the same type of remodeling there. Now the gate at Fort Rich is still open. When you go through there, you have to go through a detour then in order to get to where you need to be. But the gate is still open. Just have to do a little running around. One of the questions we get asked the most is there going to be an air show this year? And the answer is yes. The Arctic Thunder Open House will be on July 30th and 31st. And you can find out more by going onto the website. And I'll mention this a couple of times. The easiest thing for me is just to simply Google J-Bear Home. You Google J-Bear Home and that'll get you, you can just kind of find, navigate your way around and find whatever you need to, in order that you might be interested in. And Memorial Day coming up, a couple of activities are going on Memorial Day. One, well, probably more than one off base, and there's one on base. The one off base is, it's called Anchorage Remembers. It'll be at 9:30 that Monday morning, May 30th in downtown Anchorage. And then later on around noon, the National Cemetery on J-Bear will hold a Memorial Day event as well. The music will begin at 11:30 and then the ceremony starts around noon. And everyone is asked to park on the Davis Highway outside the cemetery and walk into the grounds, except for handicap and VIP parking. They'll be available inside the cemetery. If you want to find out more information, call 384-7075. That's 384-7075. I promised Anna that I would stay inside 2 minutes. I don't know. I may have broken that a little bit, but I think I'll keep it at that, and the rest of the events and activities you can read at your leisure. So I thank you for letting me on.
Yeah, thanks, Denny. Does anybody have any questions about what's happening at J-Bear?
They let me off easy tonight, so.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate it. I know we had some, I can't remember her name, but we had somebody else join last month, so we appreciate your reaching out to the community.
That might have been Kathleen, I think Kathleen or Lieutenant Smith, one of the two.
Well, thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to head out.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, why don't we move on to executive board report? Just a couple things that I'm aware of. One is just a reminder, I'm glad everybody made it here on time today, and I'm glad the Zoom meeting worked. But we are meeting as of last month's, our April 7th meeting, we're starting at 6:30 with the hope of making it easier for folks, especially those with young kids at home and who have to get up real early in the morning. So thanks to everybody for flexibility there. And then the other announcement is less positive, but unfortunately, one of our board members, Jackie Armstrong, so she was our treasurer, she sent a note earlier this month that she has resigned. So I believe she's still going to be involved as a member, but she's stepping down from the board. So that only happened very recently. So we haven't gotten our act together in terms of a special election, but certainly we need to fill that vacancy. So we will, the TCC board will look at potentially having our election, I think in September, because it's always hard to get folks to show up at the beginning of summer, but we'll follow up with that at the next meeting. And of course, if you're interested, please reach out to me or anybody on the board. We would love to have your participation. And with that, I think most of the other updates we have are actually on the agenda. So I will turn to Kathy for the Federation of Community Councils delegate report, because I was not able to make the meeting this past month. So go ahead,
Okay,
Kathy.
thank you, Anna. Had lots of things going on as usual every month, and really learn from the reports that are given by the assembly, the mayor's office. I don't recall if there was anybody from the governor's office. I don't believe so, but those are always very informative with lots of information. And of course, always great to see our assembly reps and our legislative representation join our meetings. We did have a presentation with regard, let's see, I'm not sure I have that right in front of me, but we did have a presentation on more code change proposals through the municipality. They seem to kind of keep rolling one right after the other. So, and then we had good counsel sharing, and the minutes of that meeting have already been, the draft minutes have already been released. So if you're interested in finding out more information, certainly contact the Federation of Community Councils. But it was a good meeting, and we did discuss it was, and the topic with the code changes was with regard to reduced parking and changing the code to kind of relax parking requirements for certain areas of the city with regard to both housing and commercial. So I'm going to ask my husband if he can get our door, because it just rang. Okay, so so it was a good meeting, and hopefully Anna, you'll be able to attend in May, but I'm happy to step in as alternate.
Okay, Kathy, it looks like you froze, but maybe it's catching up. But yeah, thank you. And if folks are interested in attending those meetings, they're the third Wednesday in the evening. They're held by Zoom until further notice. And yeah, anybody's welcome to attend. And a lot of council folks are there. Okay, so I guess I'll just ask if any of the other board members have updates that I'm forgetting, but I think that might be it for now. Okay, I'm seeing shaking head. So yeah, and I know folks are interested in the various things we're tracking in the neighborhood, so we'll get to those later today. So with that, why don't we move to our legislative reports? And it looks like we have a good showing tonight. I do see Senator Costello, it still says connecting to audio, so I don't know if you can hear us. I had messaged to try to reconnect. Hopefully she can get in there, but maybe we'll start with Senator Gray Jackson and then Representative Klingman.
Thank you, Anna, and good to see so many folks here at this meeting this evening. Okay, my Senate bills that are on the move, Senate Bill 7, which requires the Department of Public Safety to post their policies and procedures online, which they're doing already, but the whole purpose in this bill is because leadership changes, like it did at APD, and we just want to make sure that no matter who's in leadership, those policies and procedures are online for our public to view. So anyway, it was heard in it passed the Senate, it was heard in House Judicial April 25th. And now I'm waiting for it to go to the House floor for a vote, and hopefully it'll be pretty soon. Senate Bill 80 requiring mental health education in schools. It passed the Senate some time ago, and it passed out of the House Finance on a vote of 7-4. And I'm waiting for that bill to go to the House for a vote. Senate Bill 222, which extends physical therapy and occupational therapy board. It passed the House, and so now that board is extended. Other bills on the move, there's tons of bills on the move now because we only have 12 days left. But on April 12th, I was excited to see that Senate Bill 111, also known as Alaska Reads Act, passed the Senate. This bill seeks to expand universal, voluntary pre-K and other early learning services, and establishes a statewide K through third grade reading intervention program and it codifies support for virtual education. The bill creates 4 new programs, an early education program, a comprehensive reading intervention program, a school improvement reading program, and a virtual education consortium. And the budget is in the Senate now, and it passed the House, it's in the Senate now, and we're gonna be dealing with the budget, both operating and capital, on the Senate floor on Monday. And I was really honored to attend a couple of community events last week, or maybe it was 2 weekends ago. But anyway, I went to the ribbon cutting for the Alaska Veterans Museum, and that museum, it was closed for several months because of COVID. But the event marked the grand reopening, and if you haven't had a chance to visit the museum, I highly recommend that you go check it out. It's really great. It's in the Sunshine Mall on 411 West 4th Avenue. And in addition to that event, I attended the open house for Alaska Adoption Services, and I was able to learn more about the mission and the work of this agency. And it's just a really great agency, and I was just thrilled to attend the open house. With that said, if anyone has any questions, I could be here for a little while longer, because fortunately, my tutor community council still starts their meeting at 7 o'clock. So having this meeting at 6:30 is really, really great. But one other thing, most of my 9 community councils, they don't meet in the summertime, and I don't meet in the summer. I don't attend community councils in the summertime either. You know how to reach me for those who do meet if you need me, but we're all 59 of us are going to be pretty busy this summer, and hopefully it won't be attending special sessions. So with that said, I'll be here for a little while longer, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Does anybody have any questions? And please use the raised hand function if you can. I don't think we have anybody on the phone today, but or if you're on video, you can raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So we can circle back if we need to. And before we go to our next report, that actually reminded me, thank you for prompting my memory, Senator Gray Jackson, because the other announcement was either under board report or general announcements. And we'll say this again in June. Turnagain Community Council does not meet in the summer. So we do meet in June. And actually we will have a couple significant items on our agenda for June 2nd. That's the first Thursday in June. So we'll be holding that one by Zoom. And then we will not meet again in July and August. So we take the summer off. We can always call a special meeting if something comes up. The board does keep track of what's going on, but we don't have our council meetings. And then our next regular council meeting would be Thursday, September, I think it's the 1st. Yeah, Thursday, September 1st. So right before Labor Day. So we'll be coming back together again in the fall. So sorry for that belated announcement. And then I'll see Senator Costello. I know you were having audio issues. Have you been able to connect? She might have stepped away. Okay, well, why don't,
Anna, since there's a pause, I'll just jump in and I apologize. I didn't announce that the Federation of Community Council delegates do not meet in June. We have a picnic in July, take August off, and then meet in September again. So May was our last meeting officially, but we do have a picnic in July. So thanks.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so why don't we move to Representative Clayman?
Thanks. Good evening and happy Cinco de Mayo. I won't overlap with some of the stuff that Senator Gray Jackson reported on. Just a few of the highlights on the budget. There's between the House and the Senate, there's often some areas of which there's some differences, and some of the stuff that's gotten a lot of attention, and a couple of areas that people have been particularly interested in. First was that the House approved a governor's proposal to take over the Clean Water Act permitting under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. That's very divisive in the House. That was in the House budget. The Senate took it out of the budget. It's likely to go to the conference committee, and how that'll get resolved, I think, remains kind of a stay tuned. But if you're interested in that issue, you may want to keep communicating with your representatives. Second issue upon which there's I think difference in the House and the Senate. The House voted to take out funding the governor's settlement for his personal liability for the doctors to the Alaska Psychiatric Institute. The House voted not to pay those monies. The Senate has it in their budget. I expect that to be in the conference committee. Another issue that's getting a fair bit of attention currently is a question about funding for the Port of Anchorage. The Bronson administration has been coming down with some regularity, lobbying for funding for the port. There's been a lot of questions that's been raised, including how soon the money would be used. And the Bronson administration has had actually some kind of a lot of mixed messages down in the Capitol. It's an open question about how much money will be in the budget. The capital budget that's in the Senate currently has $25 million for the port, as long as the city matches that with another $25 million. That's the current look in the budget. There's some effort going on in the House to try to raise more money for the port. But again, one of the continuing questions is exactly how soon do they need it? We've heard things, and I heard those again today, that it may be that the municipality wouldn't even begin spending any of the money until 2025. So there's questions about whether there's an immediate need to provide that capital funding. Those are three budget issues that I think worth paying attention to. We're working on Senator Gray Jackson's Senate Bill 80 having to do with mental health education. I had a companion bill in the House, or still do, House Bill 60, and we're working to, there's a lot of questions about parental notice and information about providing the teaching. And so we're working to find the right way to address the question of parental notice for the mental health education in health classes. And so pretty hopeful we'll be able to get that worked out. Another couple of pieces of important legislation relating to public safety. There's a governor's bill for crisis intervention and crisis residential centers that ties into some of the work that Anchorage has done on a crisis response team. And that legislation is actually making pretty good progress. I think it's likely to pass the House next week. There's a companion version in the Senate. So I think for that is a kind of critical in terms of caring for some of the people with the greatest challenges in the community and helping public safety. I think there's a good chance that legislation is going to pass. And then there's been a lot of discussion, and House Bill 5 is a bill to change the definition of consent as it relates to sexual assault charges. And that's been getting pretty extensive review in the House Judiciary Committee that I chair. I expect we'll pass that on a House Judiciary tomorrow, and not quite sure if that'll get through before the end of session on the 18th, but that's certainly one of the areas we've been paying a lot of attention to. And then the last thing I just wanted to note that the litigation over redistricting is continuing. Really the last remaining issue is what are the appropriate Anchorage Senate pairings, and the issue that's going forward with that right now is whether Eagle River, kind of downtown Eagle River, whether it should be paired with the other half of Eagle River. So Eagle River would effectively have one Senate district, or whether Eagle River should be paired, one part of Eagle River with Government Hill and Jay Bear, and the other part of Eagle River paired with Girdwood and South Anchorage. The board, by a 3-2 vote, is trying to have the two Senate districts for Eagle River, and the lawsuits arguing that they shouldn't be able to, they should have one, and that South Anchorage and Girdwood should be paired with another South Anchorage district. So that's the update in terms of the specifics of West Anchorage and both of the plans under discussion. The Senate district will be the same, which will be kind of a north-south district between kind of Sand Lake, Spenard, Turnagain. Very similar to what we have now, except it'll run a little bit further south in the Senate district. So those are some of the things going on, and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Does anybody have questions? Please feel free to raise your hand, or not seeing a long line, so you can also just jump off mute. Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, Anna, so much. And Elvie, all of your hard work down in Juneau. I see my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully I'm coming through okay. So Matt, I don't know how long you're gonna hang with us at our meeting, but it would be great if you could stay through the airport report, because we've asked representation from the airport, and I see Meg Peters is with us, and John Johansson is as well, but I'm not sure if he's giving the report today. With regard to the control tower relocation to the Charlie parking area, and then relocation of the Charlie parking area somewhere else within the Lake Hood area. And I've heard that you may have a meeting with the airport director. Is that correct, to discuss that? Is that, am I hearing the grapevine correctly?
You're mostly, you've got it all straight. We've been getting, and I'm glad you brought that up, we've been getting several requests with concerns about the impacts of this potential control tower, the new control tower, and the impacts particularly on some of the West Anchorage neighborhoods, and where planes will be parked, and noise issues and potential vegetation removal issues. We're in the process of, we've requested a meeting with the airport director and working to get that set up. Haven't got it scheduled yet, that's just part of the reality in the last 2 weeks of session. Every time you try to schedule something, you realize there's another committee that's grabbing you away. So as you know, I've spent plenty of time at the airport. I'm sure we will be meeting with the airport soon. And so I'll be keeping up to date on that. Pretty good likelihood, because I've got another meeting that starts at about 7:05. So I'm not going to be able to stay on the call tonight to hear the airport report, but I am in touch with the airport, and we've been hearing from folks in West Anchorage with those concerns. And we're certainly going to look into that and kind of see what's going on with the airport, because they've already, there have been some neighborhoods that they've kind of, through the noise and whatnot, they've really realized they really weren't viable. And I think they've gradually been, those neighborhoods have been basically getting closed down, but we really want to protect the neighborhoods as best we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, thanks, Matt. Sorry, Anna.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I know we actually do have, I see Craig Campbell, the airport director, is on. There's a few folks who are on, so I wonder if we could table airport issues until a little bit later. So I'm sorry you can't join, Rep. Clayman, but
I'll be following up
Okay,
with it, don't worry.
Yeah, and Matt, if you can keep the council informed about kind of what progress, and because we've certainly provided a lot of input in the past with regard to almost every area of Turnagain Bog. And so, you know.
Oh yeah, we'll keep you,
Make sure
we'll keep you in the
keep in
loop.
touch with the council so that we're kind of on the same page on where we want to go with that.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Matt, so
definitely.
much.
We'll
Okay,
definitely keep you posted. Okay.
and thank you. And I see a question from Austin.
Hi, Matt. I just wanted to, for what it's worth, say that this assembly really supports any port funding. We probably, we've put out a resolution. I think for the last few years, that's been the assembly and past administration's top capital request and only legislative program requests. So even if the money's not used right away, the port serves 90% of goods that go out to all of Alaska come through our port, and it's in great need of repair. So we agree with the mayor. The amount that was picked by him, so I can't speak to the exact amount and what the administration's plans are, but in concept, the assembly as a whole greatly supports funding for the port. And I worry that if we don't do it now, the money we have now will disappear, and then there won't be an opportunity later. So for what it's worth, we're all in alignment in Anchorage on that.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question to Assembly Member Quinn Davison?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good to see you, Austin. So anyway, the Merit settlement of almost $350 million.
Yeah,
What's the status of that settlement? That, I mean, I know the city won, but I know there are issues supposedly, but what's the status? Thank you.
so the administration's been working with outside counsel, and I haven't gotten a recent update from them, but I know that to reach resolution, it could be a year or two because we anticipate an appeal. And we just agreed to a contract for additional monies for the outside counsel to work through that. So I think it will be a little while. 300 and some million sounds like a lot of money, but it's multiple times that we still need to bring the port up to current and sufficient standards, as you probably.
Right. If I can follow up, Madam Chair. No, I'm very familiar, as you probably know, with the port. I was involved way back when I was staff to the assembly and Roach was mayor. So anyway, I understand the need. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you both for working hard to try to get funding for the port. I know there are a lot of deserving communities and items, so just, we know you'll do your best.
So just a couple of notes on the port, and certainly the challenge with the port is significant, as from one former acting mayor talking with another former acting mayor. The port was an issue back in 2009. We were very much aware of it. That was back with the plan before the plan that then Port Director Sheffield had really supported, and before that whole thing kind of failed. And we were aware of the challenge because that's why they were doing the work back then. And then once that failed, there's been real challenges. I think one of the challenges that I'm hearing in the Capitol is that we're getting very mixed messages from the mayor's office, and at the top of the list is just he's picked a number, but it's really unclear how the money's going to get used. And so right now the Senate budget has, assuming the municipality matches, 50 million, 25 from the state with a $25 million match. And one of the questions I have, at least from your perspective, is that a amount that the city is going to be able to use? And is it, I know, and ideally you get a whole bunch of money that covers future needs, but if there's 25 million from the state and the city matches that, does that really keep the port project going forward with a lot of planning and organizational stuff for the next year? I know there's a desire to have more, but my query view is if that 25 million is in the budget, is that going to be something that's a really good amount? I mean, far less than perfect, but what's your response if that's what we can deliver?
Yeah, first, I guess I would say this isn't something, I can't speak for the whole assembly, of course, so just.
I know, I just get to ask you.
Yeah, absolutely. My perspective on it. And if Portia from the mayor's office, I don't think she works on the port specifically, but I want to give her the opportunity to, if she wants to weigh in at all. I guess it depends. I don't know enough about the match, so I don't know what the match requirements are and where that funding would need to come from. For instance, could we use the settlement that Elvie referred to as match? Would we need to bond for that match? Could we use, a federal grant that we got last year that we're working on spending now? I don't know enough about that. I think if it were new money, would we need to use our ARPA funds? That would be half of the ARPA funding that we're getting for the whole city. So I don't know. I don't know what people would think about that. And we haven't discussed it. If that's sort of what legislators had in mind, I don't know where they're thinking. I mean, you all have served in city government. Where are you thinking we would get that 25 million? Is it something we would bond for? That's a huge project. I mean, that's a lot of the money that you would normally bond for annually. So I guess the answer is I don't know. There are options, but it somewhat depends on what the match is and what the rules around the match are.
And I would just, my understanding of the match, and I haven't done an in-depth review of it, but I think it was a pretty open-ended match. The legislature wasn't putting a lot of terms on where you came up with the match. It was just, I think the proposal was 25 million that the city would have to, or the municipality would have to match it in one form or another. I can find out more, but I think
in that case, I mean, I think anything is helpful, and we definitely are looking for funding in all different types of places. And I think then it sounds doable.
If I may, Madam Chair,
sorry, Anna, we're taking over your meeting with a port conversation.
Yeah, I gotta go in a second, but I wanted to say for this conversation, But anyway, yeah, the match is in the capital budget right now, $25 million. But think about maybe instead of a GO bond, a revenue bond. But with that said, I need to run. Thank you, everybody.
We've done
Take care.
those for the port in
Thank
the
you.
past, so,
Bye.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, everyone. So I'm going to move us on from the port, but I see, so I don't know if Senator Costello was able to join audio, but I also saw Melody from her office has joined, so I'll just see if they wanted to give an update.
Thank you all. I'm gonna have to leave as well.
Yep, thank you very much.
Bye, Matt.
Hi, so I have terrible lighting, but I'm Melody. I work for Senator Costello. I am really sorry about the lighting. I'm working from home right now, but I don't have a big update to give you guys right now. The budget is going to be on the floor on Monday. That's the thing to watch. I joined a bit late, sorry, so I don't know if it was already mentioned, but they adopted the committee substitute for the budget today on the floor. And so it's really a question of what kind of amendments we're going to see to the budget on Monday, and we won't know until then. So we're all kind of in the same holding pattern right now. Please feel free though to contact my office, and now is really a great time to reach out if there's something that's important to you that you need to go into this budget. Now's kind of the final stretch, so that we know if there's any amendments to be ordered, or things to support or vote against on. Now's the time to reach out, because this is the final stretch here.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Melody. And maybe if you could just put Senator Costello's contact information. I forgot to ask our other members, but that way if folks do have budget requests or, excuse me, anything to share, we can go with that.
Yeah, I definitely will. I will get that in the chat right now.
Okay. Well, why don't we move on then from legislative reports? And now we have, and just to say, I see we have Austin from our assembly membership. We have Portia from the mayor's office. I don't see a school board person, but we do have airport reports. So I just want to remind folks, because we have a lot of reports, so I want to keep us moving. So let's go with assembly report, and Austin, you're up.
Hi again. Let's see, there's a lot going on, so cut me off, Anna, if I go too long. We have a couple new members, Randy Solt in South Anchorage and Kevin Cross in Eagle River. Randy's been out of town until just last week, so we haven't had as much chance to work with him, but have been working with Kevin for a couple weeks now. He seems lovely. We're really excited to have him. I personally am excited to have him. He likes to joke around and have fun while we work, so I've been enjoying that. Just speaking to the state redistricting, the assembly did pass a resolution supporting one Senate district in Eagle River. Just so folks know, there's the population base for one Senate district there, but some folks are trying to split it into two to better to increase representation by Eagle River and undermine and water down other people's votes that would be in each of those districts. So strongly support one Senate district in Eagle River based on the numbers. We went through our reapportionment process ourselves, as I think a lot of you know, but just wanted to mention that June 21st is the special election for the second downtown seat, or North Anchorage, as we're calling it now. So won't affect any of us. We won't be voting, but just keep that in mind. We've been holding over the last couple months ARPA listening sessions. ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act, and that was funding that was passed by Congress just after the 2020 elections. And signed by Biden, and that was passed out to communities and to states. We used a bunch of our funding on things like food bank, building a cold storage facility so that they could actually serve more people and store food for longer, helping to build a wing on Covenant House, a bunch of things, small business grants. And so we were hearing from people as we are set to receive the second tranche of ARPA funding at the end of this month. So we've been getting feedback on how things worked before, what didn't work, what does the community still need, and welcome any feedback from any of you, either here if we have time or via email later. We did put together an application process for the next round of ARPA funding. That application will be due May 20th. So if you are part of an organization that feels that you could benefit or help our community benefit from that funding, please take a look at the Assembly's website. Homelessness, I think some of you may know that all of us for years have been on board with a plan that that envisions a suite of services. So we bought the Sockeye Inn last month that now will be used for medically fragile, or what we call complex care populations of the homeless population. Also, we do need a shelter. The mayor is proposing a shelter in sort of East Anchorage over by Tudor and Elmore near Bicentennial Park. We had a lively debate last week about it. We got the documents and specs a couple hours before the meeting. We were expected to vote on it. Lots of issues from my perspective. For instance, the cost of the facility that would hold the same amount as, for example, the old Alaska Club, which we talked about in the last year or two and set the mayor up to purchase. Same amount of people, and the one at Tudor and Elmore would be 2 to 3 times the cost. So for me, it's a big fiscal problem. People I'm talking with outside who have worked in homelessness, outside meaning just outside of the Assembly, or who have worked on homelessness for years, are questioning this decision, and both the location, is that really where people need to navigate? Navigation Center is supposed to welcome people in who are moving through the community and need services. Is that really the right place to welcome, a big cross section of our community? So we're hoping to learn more. There's a work session on Monday. The vote is planned for Tuesday. I don't think there were the votes to support it, so someone moved to postpone, which was fine with me. I wanted to mention, I don't know if you all know that we have a public portal. It's somewhat new, maybe within the last 6 months to a year, on the Assembly website. So if you go there, if you're looking for a document that we've passed, you can do a keyword search. If you know that AR number, the Assembly Resolution, or AO, Assembly Ordinance number, you can search that as well, but you can also do a more general search. So I just bring that up because I'm not sure if people are aware that that's an option. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the budget. As you're probably aware, in the fall, the Assembly sets the budget for the next calendar year. So in November, we voted for the FY22 budget that would cover January to December of this year. We learned later, then the mayor vetoed some items, some line items. We overrode all but one line item. He vetoed, for instance, funding for mental health services, prevention programs like sexual assault, child abuse, et cetera. We didn't agree with that, so we overrode the veto, but then learned that he wasn't implementing the budget that was passed by the Assembly. So that further complicated things because we weren't getting grants out, et cetera, to community organizations. Another situation where this happened was some of the community grants, which until I was in the acting mayor role, I didn't know that we even did, but the mayor traditionally gives out grants to community organizations like Downtown Partnership or Covenant House, types of organizations that are doing good work in the community. And he had tried to cut those grants. We brought the money back up so he could continue giving out those grants. And then despite us making the money available, he wasn't fully funding those grants or those organizations. So we're hoping that now that we have addressed that in first quarter budget revisions, he will get those grants out, and his press releases indicate that he would like to now. The most exciting thing from the budget process is that in the last year or two, we have built a mental health services program in Anchorage. We basically didn't have this. Anna actually knows a lot about this through her day job, I think, at Agnew Beck. But we, so there are 3 components to a really good mental health services program. One is a call center, so people can call when they need help. One is a mobile crisis team that goes around and responds to folks. Traditionally, this has been police. Police have played this role. The problem is police officers show up and often there's no crime happening. There's someone having an issue that they need assistance with. And so that, and also the data show that if you are not committing a crime and you're just having a mental health challenge and the police arrive, that makes people less likely to call because they're scared and they don't want to have an interaction with the police. That's not really what they need at the moment. And then the third piece is a stabilization center where people can go and get what they need. So in the whole state, we've been working on trying to make this really efficient and better system, not only to provide services for people experiencing mental health issues, but also to take pressure off of APD. Because right now APD is responding to all of that. And we want them to be able to focus on crime and focus on other parts of things that we need in our community. So anyways, very exciting. We built the mobile crisis team while I was the mayor, and Meg and Forrest and I and other assembly members worked on it prior to that. And through the first quarter budget revision process, we made it 24/7. So right now it's part-time, but we found funding through the alcohol tax. So thank you to those of you who have supported the alcohol tax, because it makes these sorts of innovative services possible. And we made it 24/7, which in addition to being, people aren't having mental health breaks just from 9 to 5, right? So that's important. And then the other piece is that once it's 24/7, Medicaid allows you to do something called a 1115 waiver, which you can apply to get reimbursement for part of the money you're spending. So it actually gets us further at a cheaper rate in the end. So anyway, really proud of the budget work that Forrest and I led, and I'm proud of the work we're doing in the city. So I'll take any questions if I have time.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Does anybody have questions? Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much, Austin, for your report. I'm kind of behind in my emails, so I may have already gotten the answer. But when the press release was sent out with regard to these 4 pillars and the updates on the SOC-IN and et cetera, and saw that the Salvation Army, it looks like it's an existing facility. I'm not sure, is it 48th Avenue or somewhere in maybe Midtown or South
Yeah,
Midtown?
it's like Midtown kind of.
Is getting some funding for renovations. So I had asked, I think it was Claire Ross who had sent that out, or what the status is of the Clitheroe Center out west of the airport, because just a few years ago there was going to be a fair amount of funding going towards that to expand and rehabilitate. It was going to be part of that MLP settlement money, but we really haven't heard anything since. So I was curious: is that facility out there still going to be functioning, operating, or is everything transitioning to this new or this other location where it's getting some I'm sure needed funding now? Just if you have any idea about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kathy. I actually don't know the current update of the west side, what we all call the Clitheroe Center. There are actually multiple Clitheroe centers that I don't think people typically call them Clitheroe centers, but that one you're referring to, the Salvation Army building, sort of Midtown East area, that's also called Clitheroe Center. I don't know what's going on with the west one. I mean, I think it's been operational, but we were planning, a couple of years ago to do a real big renovation of it and allow for more services. That's not moving forward as far as I know. And of course, you'll probably remember that we also, through the sale of Municipal Light and Power to Chugach, that was a great financial deal for the city. We brought in, it was about $1 billion deal. So biggest deal that's ever happened in the history of the city. And we got about $240 million that we put in our trust account, which basically like the savings account for the city. And now we have a dividend every year, like $10 million this year we got basically from interest that we can use toward general government because of that smart deal. Anyway, a portion of that was we had to use $15 million from the proceeds of that sale to buy a facility for rehabilitation and treatment. And that is what money was used to pay for the Golden Lion, former Golden Lion building, which is in Midtown. We had hoped that would become a treatment center. The mayor did not seem interested in using that as a treatment center and has not pursued that. But last week, I brought an amendment to, if the Tudor Elmore project should pass, to an amendment asking him and his administration to make a good faith effort and promise that in writing to us to operate the treatment center at the Golden Lion. It's really the only thing we can do with it because that's those are the stipulations on the sale of it. And so I really hope we can use it. And we know that if we have a navigation center, which is helpful, we need to be able to navigate people to somewhere. So we want to be able to navigate them to treatment. Anyway, long answer to your question. I don't actually know what's going on with the West Clitheroe Center. I haven't heard anything about that. But if Portia from the mayor's office does know, she should feel free to pipe up.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Austin.
So it looks like we have one more question from Steve.
Hi, Austin, I was wondering about the stabilization center. Is that a 24-hour crisis center, or is it just a short center, or what's going on?
It's what they call, ideally, what we want is a 23-hour. Anna, do you want to talk about this, or does that? I feel like you know more about this even than I do, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I have worked on that project through Agnew-Beck, but I'm not current staff to it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, essentially it would be I know the crisis stabilization center is a short term, so it's not treatment, it's not a residential stay. It's really just, it's not an emergency room, but it's a sort of like that, a place where people can kind of de-escalate and just, you know, figure out their next step, basically.
And it's meant to be, like Anna said, temporary. So you don't want someone staying there indefinitely, but you have to get someone somewhere and then figure out what to do. And that's where these sort of longer term treatment centers are really useful and needed in our community, both for people, you know, experiencing homelessness, not experiencing homelessness, you know, people we work with all the time. This is, you know, substance misuse is something that impacts really every sector of our community.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So in the interest of time, I'm going to move us along. But if folks have questions, please feel free to reach out to Austin, or I know Cameron's not here today, but he's also available. So next, let's go to the mayor's report. So Portia, go ahead.
Hi, Anna. Good evening, everyone. Great to be with you all. So lots of exciting events, community events coming up this month. First, just want to let everyone know about the Mayor's Arts and Community Grants that are now live on the Muni page. And just if you go to the Mayor's Corner, you'll find access to that. And yes, we're a little delayed, but again, with the transition of the new administration, we just wanted to make sure that we had the right system in place for people to apply. So for the Mayor's Community Grants, we want to encourage anyone that's engaged in a nonprofit and has an amazing project going on. We would love to look at that and help to make the community even better. And for the arts grants, we work alongside with the Arts Commission, but if you're connected to a nonprofit, even individual artists can apply, which is really amazing. So great opportunity for some amazing art projects that could be funded. And those close both in June for the arts grants and in July for the Mayor's Community Grant. And I know, Anna, you already mentioned citywide cleanup, but we've been really grateful. We did the kickoff with the mayor's office on the 1st, and we cleaned up part of Government Hill. But just want to let everyone know, for a resource that the municipality has, Solid Waste Services has free disposal passes. So if you are cleaning up your neighborhood, be sure to get your free dump pass that will allow you to take your trash out. So I will put that in the link, but we definitely want to let community members and homeowners know that that's a resource. This weekend, another great community event, there is an Afghan welcome picnic. And I know there were some assembly members and the mayor that attended one that Catholic Social Service hosted for our Afghan refugees that came to Anchorage. But this one is actually a connection with the business community and veterans that served in Afghanistan came together and wanted to host a welcome picnic at the Dome this Saturday from 12 to 4. So with the capacity of over 400, this is just a great opportunity for as many people in the community to connect with and welcome the refugees to Anchorage and get them connected to some opportunities that are in Anchorage. So would encourage everyone, if they're available this Saturday, to come out and attend. Also just want to talk about the compost program that Solid Waste Services has offered. Like we've seen in the Lower 48, compost services are an amazing resource to our environment and to our community. And so although Turnagain might not be within the solid waste service area, you can still drop off a food compost to the transfer station that's off of Dowling. So just want to make sure that everyone knows, and that's available all the way from May through the end of October. And if you do have any friends that are downtown, they actually have the service for once a week pickup. So that is a great opportunity. We want to make sure that people utilize that service. Memorial Day event was already mentioned, but I just want to reiterate, it's just a great opportunity to recognize our veterans and family and the honorable who have served. And that's going to be on the 30th at the Delaney Park Strip. And just want to encourage everyone that's able to attend. And I think Ms. Gleason helped us at the FCC to remind the mayor's office about the capital improvement project. So that letter went out shortly after that FCC meeting. So again, sorry about having that delay, but it is available, and we want to encourage community councils to be involved in that, and that is due in June. So we look forward to seeing all the opportunities of projects that we can engage in and fund. And I know Representative Clayman is offline, but we do have a great port pamphlet, and I'd be happy to have someone, our port director, to kind of describe the ongoing kind of progress that we're wanting to make with the funding. And so we're grateful to the legislature for that initial 25 million, but the 600 million is what the mayor's office is requesting. And with the PAMP program, there are things that we are working on in 2022. So yes, it is, the project is going on through 2029, but there are definitely permitting things that are costly, and other kind of initial things that we need to do to get the projects going. So that funding is, if we have more funding, that will be started. It's not 2025. So we do have, looking forward to get funding as much as we can. There's also some federal grants that we're going to be applying for. So we're hoping that we have some of that resource from infrastructure opportunities, and we look forward to that. But if your community council is interested, I would be happy to get someone, our port director, Colby Hickle, to come and do a short presentation if you think that would create value for your community. And then the update with Salvation Army, there is a weekly meeting that our senior policy advisor, Larry Baker, has with the Salvation Army. I know they're working on the 4 locations, but I know the Cliff was the specific location, and I can send you an email with that specific update. I just don't have that, but I know continuously there has been ongoing conversations weekly with Salvation Army on the municipality assisting the Salvation Army, getting all the buildings back, not only up to code, but able to house people. And one of them actually includes veterans, which is really amazing. So I'm happy to provide you an update on that specific location that's in your district. And lastly, just want to remind everyone, there has been the 2 listening sessions in regards to the Navigation Center, but now there's going to be one more that Dow will be presenting, and that will be specifically on the programming and cost and design, and specifically speaking about the conditional use permit. And so that's going to be May 19th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Assembly Chambers. I'll add that in the chat. But that's just one more opportunity to learn more about the progress and the design from Dow. And there'll be members from the administration there to answer any questions too. So if anyone hasn't had an opportunity to attend those first 2 sessions, here's just one more opportunity. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Portia. Does anybody have questions? Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, Portia. So with regard to the conditional use permit, I'm just curious, what would that conditional use permit be needed for?
My understanding, it's just in regards to the structure. But again, I have the whole outline in the PowerPoint presentation. I'd be happy to share with you if that would be helpful.
Sure, if that's the way to get the answer, then I guess so. Go ahead and feel free to email it to me.
Great, will do.
Okay, thank you, Portia.
Thank you. And actually, I think I can't remember where it is, but there's maybe a website with all the different project links too. That might be helpful to put in the chat if folks want all those details.
I can do that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any right now, but thank you for the updates on all the great stuff happening. And if you could also put your contact information in the chat, then folks can follow up if they have questions. Sorry, I keep forgetting to ask folks to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's move on. We are a few minutes behind, so we'll just continue going. And so I'll ask the airport folks to be brief if you can, and then we'll move into our presentations. And we don't have anybody from the school board that I can see, so we'll do our last report of the evening. So go ahead, Megan.
Hi, thank you so much. Before I get started on the actual airport update, I would like to introduce the new airport manager, Craig Campbell. He is online that I saw a couple minutes ago. So Craig, can you please introduce yourself?
Be glad to, yes. About 5 weeks ago, I took over as the airport director at Anchorage International Airport and really enjoyed being in that job. Also enjoy working around the neighborhood. So I know we're going to be talking a little bit later on about the Lake Hood GA parking issue. And John Johansson, myself, Megan will be around to talk about that, because I recognized early on when I started that the 2017 master plan for Lake Hood identified the expansion area to be right next door to the residential areas on the east side of the gravel strip. The FAA is going about an environmental assessment to relocate the tower. That's going to adjust 39 of our general parking positions, going to displace them. And so we have already gone to the FAA to ask them to look at multiple alternatives, more than one. Don't just look at the east side of the gravel strip for the only alternative. And so the FAA will be looking at that, but we just want to keep you up to date. We want to listen to what you have to say, and I'm just glad to be in this job.
Thank you, Craig. With that, I'm going to kick off. I know there's probably going to be some questions on the apron redo, but let me just get into the other things first, and then we'll take questions. So construction around the airport, the most noticeable to the general public, not necessarily you guys, but the general public, is the construction that is happening on the Terminal Loop Road. We are bringing the area into ADA compliance. It's very important for everybody to have equal access that's safe for them to be in. So they are looking at improving the storm drains. They're doing asphalt resurfacing. We're doing signage improvements. That's a really big project. And it is currently set to mostly wind down or be taken care of before Memorial Day. There will still be little shutdowns here and there, but the regular traffic patterns will return back to normal with just some stoppage here and there. The Lake Hood gravel strip 1432, that is getting a big facelift this year. Every year they do a little bit of work on it, but this year they're digging down a little bit deeper, making it more stable, extending the life of that runway. This is not construction on any of the apron issues that people are looking at. It's completely separate. So that is just the regular focusing just on that gravel strip runway. So do not be alarmed just because you see construction happening, please. And if you have questions, I'm available for you guys. Reach out to me. Memorial Day weekend is Alaska's kickoff to summer. We all know that. The cell phone parking lot is increasingly going to be our best friend. The more traffic we have coming into the airport and just trying to go straight in to try and pick up people is just going to clog things up. We want people to use the cell phone lot and wait until they know that their loved one is ready with their luggage on the curb for pickup. Please, please, please help us keep traffic flowing by utilizing the cell phone lot to pick up your loved ones. The tourists are going to be coming in force this year. We're looking at about a 5% increase in seat capacity for airlines. Seat capacity means that's just how many seats are available on an airplane. We have increased flights coming in, and also some airlines are choosing to utilize larger aircraft. So seat capacity doesn't necessarily mean that we automatically have that many more tourists coming, but it's an opportunity, and we want to promote it, and we want to know, or we want to let people know that it's there, and Alaska is ready for them. We have spring cleaning tomorrow, May 6th. We have airport employees and also a lot of tenants and their family members coming and helping clean up around the airport. We do invite our neighbors to participate. If you come, we will feed you. That's always good. Hamburgers and hot dogs are going to be served after people are out in the morning going around and picking up trash. We would love it if you guys come and help us. We love our neighbors. We want to look nice for everybody, especially our neighbors. So if you're available tomorrow and you want to get a little bit of exercise and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy great company, our airport staff and also our tenant staff are going to be out and about the airport. There's a couple different events happening this May. One of them is Walk MS Anchorage 2022. That is happening on May 14th. It starts officially at 10 a.m. I think they're doing stuff before that, but the actual event where people are set off to walk around Lake Hood are going to be out. That's going to be at 10 a.m. They have an official website, our airport police and fire. They are going to have a team out participating in that. They're doing it in honor of a coworker of theirs from a couple years back that has MS, and they just want to still support that person. So we're going to have our own team. So say hi to the police and fire personnel that you see walking around the lake. The seaplane base of Lake Hood, the largest in the world, the ice has officially gone out. That happened very quickly. I think on the first day of May is when I noticed that there was no longer ice on it. So that means a return of all the float planes coming and going. Airport recruitment. There's a lot of opportunities at the airport. Approximately 1 in 10 jobs in Anchorage are at our airport, helping support the airport and the industry surrounding it. So if you know anyone that's recently graduated, encourage them to visit joinanc.com to see if there's something that might catch their interest. There's always a job opportunity at the airport for people. Let's see, for COVID, masks are now optional. That was a big highlight in the news. As soon as we learned that TSA announced the expiration of the security directive that made masks mandatory, it expired. We let people know that it is now optional. Just please be respectable for the other people's choices around you. And we just all want everyone to have a great time when they're en route to their destinations. Vaccinations are still occurring at the airport. So if you need a vaccination or a booster, you could potentially get one at the airport, but we do not have testing unless it is infrastructure critical employees. So for airport updates, people can sign up on GovDelivery. I did distribute to the presidents of the community councils the email address where people can go and sign up for those. We would love it if you would sign up so you can get information directly in your inbox. Not only can you sign up for these airport updates, it also has the opportunity for you to sign up for other things that DOT is providing. Airport specific, we also do as a courtesy, whenever we do a public notice, we try and also accompany that with a GovDelivery so our neighbors know exactly what's happening right at the airport. I am the contact for the monthly updates. I prepare them. I want to make sure that the information I provide to you all is things that you're interested in. On that note, I did receive an inquiry from your community council. Thank you, Ms. Gleason, for sending in a question. I do appreciate having communication because I do like to know what's important to you all. One of the big deals that Mr. Campbell highlighted was the relocation of 39 general aviation aircraft tie-down locations. So right now, we are looking at expanding potentially Echo parking. We are the FAA, this is their main project. They're the ones that are going to be doing the public notices for these things. But we understand that our neighbors are very curious as what's going on. The preferred alternative when the tower is moved is for the Charlie parking to be displaced near Echo parking. The site that people have been asking about previously is also of consideration. It is also going through the same assessment process, but right now the airport's preference is when Charlie parking moves, it just goes to an expanded Echo parking. That area is slightly northwest to Airco parking, so it's not the one that's right next to, parallel to the gravel strip. On May 3rd, there was some geotechnical drilling done for the site that is parallel to the runway. That's just a part of the environmental process. That same drilling is going to be happening next to the Echo parking. So please don't be immediately concerned when you see people out there running around. It doesn't mean we're moving forward with anything. It just means it's a part of the assessment process. As more people are coming, well, as the sun gets out, it's so nice out. Lakehood is beautiful. People like to recreate around the lake. We do want to remind neighbors as they are recreating around the lake that aircraft do take priority. So if you are running or jogging, anything, if you see an aircraft coming, please stop and let the aircraft pass and go where it needs to go. Do not cut it off. The aircrafts have right away. I think I blitzed through a lot. I think I touched on the main points. I would love to open it up for questioning if I have time. Are there any questions for me? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So it looks like there is a question. And just to say also, I know folks are interested in what you just mentioned, the parking, but I'm going to suggest that this isn't right now isn't the time to get into the details on that. So I appreciate your update. And I know it's something certainly our council is tracking, but we're going to give a brief update later. So with that, I'll recognize Dan.
Okay.
Just for a quick
Yeah,
question.
thank you, Megan. One thing I was driving out towards the post office today and noticed that Postmark Drive was getting pretty cracked and has a lot of issues with it. Is there any plan to refurbish or upgrade the Postmark Drive from, let's say, the post office out to past FedEx and the fuel station area there?
You know, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that there is something in the works. However, I would really like to consult a couple people before I tell you that that is actually truth. I will go ahead and inquire about that. And if you don't mind, I will send the answer to your community council president for her to distribute back out to all of the neighbors, to include you. But I believe that is actually a project that is currently in place, but I honestly don't know when they're going to initiate it. So I really want to check with my construction guys before I tell you a solid answer on that one, sir.
Okay, the next item, my
Okay.
next question, if Kathy's okay with this, is there was some signage up on the west side of north-south runway on the fence with going about some construction going on with the warehousing on the west side.
Okay.
Is that where's that project at?
I think what you are referencing, and forgive me, Ms. Gleason, I meant to touch on that briefly because I know you sent me a question regarding a private lease application. So it is my understanding that somebody has put in a application to develop an area near the gravel strip for a couple hangars. The application process, once we get the application, it's my understanding that there's a lot of talk and negotiations, but until something is finalized, other than being able to tell people that somebody has put out an interest in developing the land and talking about it. Once it's public notice, what's public noticed is what's there, and the process, I'm under the impression, but I'm still trying to seek clarification. So please be
Yeah.
patient with. I don't think we're allowed to really dive into those details until it goes a little bit further. So
Okay.
I'm gonna
Well-
check that one out. That is on my list of things.
Yeah, that's the gravel strip. I was talking about the north-south runway west of it on the main airport, north of the fueling station, right in that corner there.
Okay, I think I'm familiar with that area. Would you?
It's on the way to
please-
Clitheroe Center.
So,
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna
think I know what
suggest, sorry, because we are running behind and we have a couple
Okay.
presentations, so I don't want to take up more time, but maybe Megan, if you can again, put your contact info in the chat, and then if folks have questions, that way you can be real specific about which projects you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to give you guys accurate information regardless of which side of the airport property it is. So I will be putting my information into the chat. Also, feel free to go into the ancAirport.com and go into, like, if you scroll all the way down, there's a little link that just says, give us feedback or something very generic like that. You can always put something in there and we can get back to you directly. If you want something to be largely addressed through your council, email me through the president and we will make sure we get back to you so it can be dispersed through everybody.
Okay.
I will go ahead and put it through in the chat. And if you guys have any other questions, I am all ears, and I'm really grateful that you guys let us come and address you directly, because communication is a really big deal. We're your neighbors, you're our neighbors. We want everyone to understand what's happening and we want to know your feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. And Kathy, I'll just check it if this is a very brief question or if it's about the tie down issue, maybe we could table it for a little bit.
It is not about the tie down issue.
Okay.
So thank you, Anna, and thank you, Megan. I was just wanting to see the Turnagain Community Council did submit comments, as we do every 2 years when the outreach communication plan is up for review. And so unfortunately, we never get feedback from our comments or see if they've been taken into consideration to amend that plan. So can you maybe provide a little, just briefly provide where we're at on that, and have you made any changes based on our comments?
At this point in time, there have not been any changes. I know we do have the comments. I believe we are yet to go through step by step with a committee to look at them. I do recall you asking me about that, and I know I did ask the question. There's been a lot going on. I'm so sorry that we haven't been able to address this back to you. And I should have actually brought that up in my marks, because we did address that last meeting. So I do apologize to you for that. It has not happened yet, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted an update, and I might say just very briefly, clearly there's multiple things that the community council is interested in with regard to airport development and projects, and our land use committee has identified that perhaps one or more meetings with the appropriate people, and including the new director of the airport, Mr. Campbell, might be beneficial. So maybe we could get some guidance from the airport on how we might best be able to have additional time besides our general membership meetings, which are, always have lots of things to talk about, how we might be able to move forward so we could get a little more detail on, several things that are going on.
Kathy is-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kathy, let me get, I'll answer that really quick. Kathy,
Okay.
this is Greg. I will make that a point to tomorrow to have us outreach to you and to John Isaacs to see when we can set up a separate meeting. We did it with Sand Lake a couple of weeks ago. I think it was very beneficial. Be glad to do it with you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Done.
Okay. Yeah, thank
Yep.
you.
I was going to say that we do have a request in and we were looking at schedules today for you. One of the things that is always very helpful.
Sorry,
that-
Megan, I'm
super
gonna. Okay.
So when you guys request meetings as a community council, if you can request meetings individually on specific topics, that way we can have a very clear agenda on what each meeting is about when we try and schedule it. That's very helpful instead of just having it open and up in the air. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for being patient with me. I'm so sorry that I'm a little long-winded today. I'm usually much more concise. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the update. So, and I know folks are definitely still interested in those airport issues. So when I say that we need to move on, I don't mean that it's not important. It's just that we have an agenda and we have other presenters. So I'm sharing with the neighbors as well. And there are other venues that we can continue to work on this. So with that, and I apologize that we're running behind, but I want to recognize Fire Department Chief Schrage, and please go ahead and give your introduction.
Thanks. Glad to be here. I know you have a full agenda still tonight, and so I'll try to be as brief as I can. I don't have a prepared presentation. I just want to give a regular report. And I did look through your attendance and noted that it doesn't appear that any of our Spenard Fire Station 5 personnel are in the meeting. So I'm prepared to answer any questions that come up. I want to report to you that things I think are going quite well at the fire department. As you probably know, we worked very hard over the winter to try to manage our overtime in such a way that we would finish the year under budget. Interestingly, the fire department hasn't come in under budget in quite a number of years, or at least our overtime budget, and we were on track to do that. Mayor Bronson did add quite a bit of money to our overtime budget this year. So we've been able to stop having to close companies at night, which is what we had been doing to reduce our expenses. So you can be assured now that we have all of our fire trucks and ambulances fully staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the year. And we expect to be able to do that for the remainder of the year. You may have seen that the Anchorage Assembly passed a budget amendment during the first quarter budget revision process, which creates 4 new firefighter positions effective on July 1st. So we are earnestly planning to place those positions and get those onboarded. While the mayor did veto some of the assembly budget amendments, that was one of them that he did not veto. So we're moving forward on that, and very happy about that. Our mobile crisis team, as for those of you who aren't familiar, the mobile crisis team is our team of behavioral health clinicians who are teamed with paramedics, and they respond to 911 calls for people who are in behavioral crises around the community. They've gone on better than about 1,000 calls so far since the team was stood up part-time in August. It's now operating full-time, but not around the clock. And the best thing about this is 70 to 80% of the people that they respond to, they don't have to transport to the hospital. Because there's a clinician on board, they're able to treat those individuals in crisis right in the field without having to either arrest them or take them to a hospital. So it's good for the fire department, it's good for the police department, it's good for our hospitals. And then this time of year, of course, we're very, very busy preparing for the wildfire season. There are lots of details going on there which I can answer questions about, but in the interest of time, I will just let you know that the woodlots are going to open up the week after next. Woodlot is a place where homeowners can bring vegetation that they've cleared from their property, and for a small fee, they can dispose of it properly without having to take it out to the dump. We've done this in previous years. We're doing it again. The main woodlot will be at 100th Avenue and C Street, as same location as in previous years. We're staffed up. We will be continuing Firewise assessments. So homeowners who would like the fire crew to come by and give an evaluation of your residence and its resilience towards wildland fire can arrange for that in the normal way. This is the last year that we have funding for that program. We're looking at funding for future years, but this would be a good year for homeowners to take advantage of it. The people who participate in that program can get, they become eligible for a grant to cover up to $500 in costs for vegetation removal at their homes. And then lastly, let me just say that we've engaged a postdoctoral researcher at UAA who is helping us do some research to identify evacuation and egress routes for people that are particularly on the hillside mainly, but it affects all of us. If there were an advancing wildfire, it would improve the ability for us to not only allow those residents to escape, but in so doing to not impede the access of the fire crews responding. There are many other things that I could speak about. I'll probably just leave it there. I do want to say thank you to the electorate in general for passing our bond propositions in the April ballot. Those propositions will enable us to keep our fire trucks and ambulances on the street. If you want more details about that, I'm happy to take your questions. If there's time, let me also just put my contact information right here in the chat, and I'm happy to talk with you anytime. That's the end of my report.
Yeah, thank you, Chief Shruggy. So it looks like there's one question. And again, I'll just ask folks, if you do have questions, please use the raised hand function. And we still are a little behind, so we'll just entertain a couple questions if there are any. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Fire Chief. My question is, now that we're completely staffed up, how has the response times improved? Have you improved those response times from the past? There was always a concern about response times, and have those improved, or what are you doing about improving response times?
That's a great question. Response times is a metric that,
because that saves lives.
Yeah, the faster we can get there, that's one of the elements of an effective response is how quickly we can get on scene. Our response times are suffering a little bit right now, and we attribute this in some part to due to the apparatus closures that we've had, because we've had to close some companies, ambulances and fire trucks over the winter. We never left any station unstaffed, but it does altogether lengthen our response time. So not significantly, but it is a little troubling and something we're watching. The best ways for us to reduce our response times is to improve our dispatching procedures, our alerting procedures, and to have more rolling assets out in the field. So I think we've done all that we can do with our existing infrastructure. I think the average of our response times will improve as now that we've stopped doing these closures. As time goes on, those numbers will come back to normal, I think. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And looks like another question from Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks, Chief, for being here. This is more of a comment than a question and has to do with the woodlot, and I really appreciate that resource exists. One thing that we kind of found out this year, so we have a spruce bark beetle kill tree in our yard, and it's relatively new as far as we can tell. The beetles are still in the tree. So we took it down in hopes of, saving the rest of the neighborhood, but are finding that the most appropriate way to dispose of that wood is to chip it up. And to get a company to come and chip up a single tree, I've discovered a minimum cost is $350, which can be pretty cost prohibitive for folks who are trying to do right by this infestation. And so, yeah, I was kind of waiting for the Muni woodlot to open so that we could take the tree there and get it chipped up there. But we're running up against the fact that the beetles might emerge in the next couple of weeks. So just something to consider for future years if we want to do better by the infestation of having that woodlot open earlier, so people have a more, cost-effective means of properly disposing the trees that they do catch early enough. Certainly there's lots of people who kind of wait until they see that the whole tree is dead. And then at that point, it doesn't really matter how you dispose of it because the beetles are long gone. But we caught ours early enough that, yeah, we were trying to do right. And now I'm like, what do I do with this tree? But we'll figure it out. So just something to consider.
I appreciate your comment very much. I've heard the same concern from quite a few other people. We're a couple of weeks behind compared to previous years, and I honestly don't know what the reason is for it. It has something to do with the way the purchasing process went and the number of people that bid on the contract and so forth. We have the same contractors in previous years, but I'm told that they've stood it up as quickly as they can do it. I would urge you to schedule a Firewise assessment as quickly as possible, and then that will make you eligible for a $500 stipend to cover the cost of that fuel removal.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't see any other questions. So again, thanks for being available to Stragi. And we have in the past had the Spinard Station folks come by back when we met in person. So they do come sometimes, but we appreciate you making time.
Thank you very much for allowing me to join.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So next we have, before our second presentation, we have a brief item for action. So we're proposing to amend a resolution that we passed in 2019. So I'll just give a super brief update. Essentially, this is related to naming facilities in Llaneri Park. So we had a resolution a couple weeks ago about signage for memorials for some of the folks who have been involved in the Anchorage West Little League for a long time and have had or proposing to have baseball diamonds named after them. And as a result of that earlier discussion a few years ago, it was also discovered that a lot of the things that we know as named features in Llaneri Park are not actually official. So there's like the Hendrickson Courts. There's a few different things that that haven't gone through the official naming process. And so back in 2019, we passed a resolution essentially requesting the city to form a naming panel for those other features, with the idea that that, most of them maybe already have a name. So it's not a question of choosing a name. It's really just getting all of that kind of housekeeping done at Llaneri Park, in addition to the proposals that the Anchorage West Little League have brought forward. And so what we're proposing in this resolution, and then I'll throw to Kathy in a second, is essentially some sad news between when we passed that and now is another kind of key member of the Anchorage West Little League, John Opinski, passed away. So he's one of the folks who will be memorialized on those signs. But we also want to make sure that that he would be added to, his name would be added to the mix for the baseball diamonds. So that was certainly something that wasn't an issue in 2019 and now has come up. And so the proposal is to go back to our 2019 resolution and simply amend it, adding in a request to include Mr. Opinski as well. So with that, I'll throw over to Kathy, and then I do have the resolution that I can share screen as well. So go ahead, Kathy.
Thanks, Anna. That was a really good summation of what we have before us. And there is something that we may want to amend with regard to this proposal that that we put together, is that there was a memorial bench through private donations put in near the baseball diamond at the lower level of Llaneri Park in memory of John Opinski. And I had added this as part of this 2019 amended for the naming panel to consider, but benches typically don't really need to go through that. And Anchorage Park Foundation and Parks were okay with that. So we don't really need to reference the bench in this resolution amendment. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's actually not needed. So I'll let the body decide if we want to get into the weeds and, play with some wording, or if, we just want to make a general or a more general motion that would include deletion of any language that references the John Opisky park bench. But otherwise, as Anna said, unfortunately, John did pass away last year. And so the proposal is to include that at one of the diamonds within the Marston Fields baseball field, that to name a diamond after him. And that would be added to those 3 bullets that are right. If you want to scroll down, just or scroll up, you can see the 3 original that were included on our 2019 resolution, and then language that would include John as well for a diamond at the park, at the field. So with that, and it's certainly something that's long overdue, and we want, the community council would like to move forward working with the parks and the assembly. At this point, we need the assembly approval for a citizen naming panel to be appointed. And right now, we're proposing that that Kathy Opisky be on it, as well as myself. And I know we were going to reach out to someone from the Hendrickson for the tennis courts to participate, but this is where we're at. So first, we need to have a formal request to the assembly to get this started. So does anybody have any questions?
Okay, not seeing any. So then at this point, we will ask for, looking for a motion and a second to move the resolution. And then if we want to take care of, like Kathy said, if we want to remove the bench language or change it, then we can take care of it at that point. So who'd like to move and second the resolution?
I move to approve this resolution.
This is Carolyn. I'll second.
Okay, moved by Dan, seconded by Carolyn. Is there any discussion or changes, amendments?
Can you just scroll down to the now there for be it resolved?
Sure.
So we're, and be it for yes, so we're all clear on what the resolution is actually doing. Thanks.
Yeah, and sorry, I should have said before, it looks like the text that's italics and underlined, that's the new, so the stuff that isn't italics is what was there before. So we're not changing the other pieces of the resolution. Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to go ahead and move to amend this proposed resolution put before us now, to go ahead and delete any reference to the John Opisky park bench because of what I said earlier.
So this whereas that I have highlighted, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and is there any, I guess for the mover and the seconder, is there any objection to that? Or we
No.
can take a vote?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you explain, are we voting to approve the resolution? Or are we voting now for the second motion to remove the bench from the resolution?
So right now, we were discussing, well, basically whether we needed to vote on the amendment. So we're taking action on the amendment to the resolution, which is to remove this one clause, the bench. So not the main one. And so I didn't hear any objection, and both the motion and second said that was okay. So instead of voting on it, I'm going to suggest we just take it out. And so then
Move unanimous consent to remove that that part of the amendment.
okay, is there a second? Or Carolyn, do you want a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So is there any objection? Not hearing any. Okay. So then we are back to, well, I guess I should say if there's any other changes to the resolution. Not seeing any. So let's go ahead and vote on the resolution. And typically we do a count vote. So please, if you're able to come off or turn your video back on, otherwise you can use the raised hand function. And so I'll ask everybody in favor of approving the amendments to resolution 2906 and with a new resolution number, which we will put it in the sequence, please raise your hand. And if you're on video, you can also use the.
Anna, can you take down the resolution?
Yeah,
please?
sorry. Let me do that. Oh, yeah, now I can actually use this as well. Okay, and I know some of the folks who are here are not members, so to see if anybody else wants to vote.
7, 8, 9.
Looks like Steve, so it looks like 10 in favor.
10.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not seeing anybody else voting at this point. Okay, so then please lower your hand if you've got the raise hand function, and then anybody who is opposed to passing the resolution or approving the resolution. And okay, not seeing any there. So with that, we will consider the resolution approved, the new resolution with the amendments by a vote of 10-0. So we will get that updated and we'll get it to I believe to the mayor's office and the assembly representatives asking for that naming panel. So we'll follow up. Okay, so with that concludes our new business. So thanks everyone. Then our next item is the presentation / update on, and it's under old business because it's something that we've addressed before, and that is the West Anchorage snow disposal site. I mean, we do have Alice, and sorry if I mispronounced your name, Radmacher.
Yes, Rademacher. It's a hard one to pronounce.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Alice, if you would like to share your screen, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
And just give your update.
Perfect. Let me share my screen. Let's see, share. Can you see that?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Alice Rademacher, and I'm a public involvement coordinator with the West Anchorage Snow Disposal Project. And so tonight I'm just going to give you a quick update on the project and just how to get a hold of us. So the status, I'm going to go ahead and screen share. So there's a graphic, a timeline graphic. You can scroll down here to see it, but I have it opened up a bit larger for you guys here. So this is our schedule graphic, and we are still in the permitting and design phase of the project. And this phase is anticipated to be complete in early 2023. So the schedule is correct. And schedule will be updated. We are going to have a public meeting at the end, near the end of 2022 this year. Whenever we get to the 65% design stage, we're going to have a public meeting, and that date, when it's set, will go for normal advertisements, and you guys will be made aware. We'll make sure to email you. So then I know you wanted to know about the permitting process, so I can go to share this screen. This is from a presentation we did with Sand Lake Community Council, but this is our permitting steps. So the municipal permitting and zoning requirements, they include 5 permits you can see here. So we completed the rezoning from transitional to public lands and institutional. Completed the comprehensive plan amendment to reclassify parcel from park or natural area to community facility or institution. Also, the municipal use of designated parkland for road access, which was approximately 0.2 acres, has been completed. And the Title 21 variances related to snow site proximity to wetlands and snowmelt water drainage were approved by the UDC. So those 4 have been completed. And the one that's in progress is the conditional use permit, or conditional use and land use permit. So those are in progress. We are currently not on the calendar for the upcoming meetings, but we do anticipate going to planning and zoning in August. And as I noted earlier, we are currently working on the 65% design. And we're coordinating with street maintenance on the on the design of the snow site access road that will require relocating a water truck fill station within the Northwood maintenance yard. We are also coordinating with Parks and Rec on a pathway that is proposed to be incorporated into the new site berm and connect Connors Park pathway to Javier de la Vega Park. And as I noted earlier on the schedule graphic, a public open house will be coming up for the 65% design phase to get input on that design. But a date has not been set yet. And as soon as it is, we'll notify you, and numerous announcements will be sent out on that. And the last thing I want to touch on are engagement opportunities. So this on the website here, if you scroll to the top, and there are these headings up here, and all of our events, give a chance to load, are posted on this events calendar. And you can go back and forth by months and toggle through. But information on upcoming public meetings and opportunities are found on this on our website. And yeah, and then for getting a hold of us, you can email us at info@westanchorage.com, and I'll put our website and our email address in the chat when I'm through speaking to get a hold of us. So you feel free to, all requests for information or questions can be made via email.
Okay, thank you, Alice.
Yeah,
Does anybody have questions? It looks like Kathy has a question.
Hi, thanks so much, Alice, for presenting. Is there any way that we can have access to your PowerPoint presentation? Will that be on your website?
So right now I'm only showing the website.
Well, the PowerPoint presentation that you just showed us, is
yeah, that's on the website as well. So if you go, I can show. So if you go to the project documents, it might take a minute or a second to load.
That's fine. As long, that'd be great.
It's on there. It's
I don't know how new you are to the covering this, but Turnagain Community Council had submitted pretty extensive comments early on in this project. And somehow we missed a notification of when this went before UDC. And so that was really unfortunate, because we specifically asked for some conditions once these things are getting approved with variances and conditional use permits, etc. So have any of those been considered by the project team? Because we did spell them out pretty specifically at that time.
I cannot speak to that. I can ask that question of the project team, or feel free to email us, but I'm not sure. I can't answer specifically to that, but all of our information and meetings are on this calendar. We aren't sending out any public e-blasts or emails for that, or advertisements, but we are keeping this calendar updated for future meetings. But I can ask the team that, and if you want to send an follow-up email too, that'd be great. Write that down.
And can you go ahead and send out to the West Anchorage Community Councils notification of when this is going before the Planning and Zoning Commission, so we don't have to kind of proactively remember to check your website?
So it changes pretty fluidly. It depends on how many commissions are there, or how many members are there, and so we are committing to keep our calendar up to date. So I can't promise to send an email out, because we could be on the agenda and get taken off a little bit. So we don't want to do that, but we just want to direct people to our project website.
Okay, thank you, Alice.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And then it looks like John also has a question.
Thanks, Alice. And adding to what Kathy said, we did submit some very detailed comments, and I think it would be helpful for us if we could have an informal meeting with the team just to see where you are and how those comments might be addressed before we get to the 65% design. Because it would be easier for us to perhaps tailor our participation, knowing what you're working on and what you're not working on. So if you could consider that, I would be grateful.
Yeah, I'll get back with the team on that, and feel free to send any meeting requests via email as well, but I will connect with our team probably next week on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I don't see any other questions. So again, thank you, Alice, for coming, and sorry for the delay in the meeting
No,
time,
no,
but we appreciate you being
no,
here.
no problem. I'm happy to be here. I'll
Yeah,
stop
thanks.
sharing. Oh,
Sure. And yeah, we'll definitely follow up as a council about that meeting and the questions we have.
yes, please do. Okay, I believe I stopped sharing. I'll put the website and, oh, you already did. I'll put the email and contact information in the chat, and then I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Okay. Yeah, so folks, if you're interested in that, please check out the website. And then next on our agenda, we have actually just two brief updates. And I think I even gave them too much time, but essentially just giving folks status update on a couple things. So the one is, so last month we formed our CIP priorities committee, or we authorized forming one. So typically the deadline for that is the end of May. So we're aiming to be really proactive and have something for approval at this meeting. But then we found out the deadline was June 15th, and we have not had a chance to pull the committee together. So it worked out in our favor. And so what we're going to do is have that committee meeting in May by the end of this month, and then approve our priorities at the June 2nd meeting. So that's something that we'll have coming up. So just to remind folks of that. And if you are interested in serving on the committee, we do have a couple of folks who signed up already, but we're basically going to ask folks to look at the list of priorities that we had last year. And actually I should back up. This is the capital improvement project priorities list. So the projects like roads, parks, drainage, that kind of thing in our council area. Every year they ask community councils to provide what our priorities are, as well as if there's projects we don't want to see happen in our area. You know, they always try to turn Minnesota into a full highway, so we tend not to agree with that, those kind of projects. But anyway, if folks are interested in that, then we would ask folks to look at the list from last year, hold one committee meeting to work through those priorities, and then make a recommendation to the council. So if you are interested, you can email the TCC president. I'll put the email again in the chat. And that's just generally, if you want to contact the council, that's the best way to get a hold of us. And if you want to serve on that committee, please let us know. So that's that update. And again, we'll bring that back in June. Then the next update is again brief, and it's not even 10 minutes because you know, we don't have specific information yet, but this is just an update again on the proposed disposal of the municipal parcels. They're called the Woodland Park subdivision parcels. So they're the parcels across from the Rustic Goat. There's a parking lot and then the green space there. So the update is essentially that again, that's something that will be on our June meeting to take a vote as a council, what our recommendations are to the assembly. It will be on the assembly's agenda for Tuesday, June 7th, unless they decide to postpone it for some reason. But that's what we're working toward. And so I am behind on planning the community outreach that I was hoping to have happen through our council, but we do have a couple updates. One is that we will be holding a community meeting on Saturday, May 21st. So the meeting will be from 10 a.m. to noon. And we will be we'll send a notice out to the council. We'll make sure to get the word out to folks with the details. So we just haven't had a chance to prepare that yet. But essentially we'll have a community meeting at the site. And then we've also engaged with the Turnagain Social Club to have part of our meeting. So we'll be sending more information about that, because we do want to, you know, experience what the land is like, what it's being used for now, have a conversation there. And of course, if it's raining, we don't want to have folks standing there for 2 hours. So we'll be sending more information about that. And then we also intend to basically ask the same questions that we'll ask in the meeting on a community survey. So we'll send that out again by email. It will be an online survey. We'll make it easy to participate. So especially if you can't make the meeting, then you can provide input that way. And then as a result of that outreach at the meeting and the survey, we'll pull together kind of what the neighborhood's questions are, themes, concerns, concerns about potential impacts, what you might want to see happen with that land. You know, we certainly, all of us on the board have had conversations with a lot of folks. I know neighbors such as Steve on the meeting have been really talking to folks. So there's a lot of different views out there. And so we really just want to hear, you know, what kinds of issues we need to bring forward and what we need to communicate back from the council to the assembly when they're considering their vote. So again, we don't have flyers or anything prepared yet, but we will have those soon, and then look for information about a meeting later this month. So with that, I'll just see if folks have any questions. Otherwise, we aren't kind of covering it in detail today, but Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, a real quick question. Glad to hear information about that. The survey, what's the timing and how will you be conducting that survey?
Yeah, so the survey is going to be, I was thinking we would use basically a Google form. So you can set those up so people can provide input there. And the survey questions would be pretty short because we want people to respond. Probably open-ended, you know, so not multiple choice necessarily, but just kind of, you know, how do you use this land today? What are things that you think would be appropriate for our neighborhood? What are things that you think would be impacts or concerns that you have if something happens with this land? So that's the idea.
And how will you be reaching out to people? But when I asked for timing, I was wondering about calendar timing. Sorry.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm hoping to work on it this weekend, honestly, get some feedback on it, get it sent out early next week, and then have it open for a couple weeks. And then our meeting again would be Saturday, the 21st.
So it's an existing email database that you'd be using?
Yeah, so we would use our the FCC mailing list. We also are intending to make a flyer to hand out, especially folks who live in that area. So just trying to get the word out as best we can. I mean, as you know, it's going to be difficult to reach out to everyone in our community council area. So we're just going to do our best. And we've also discussed the FCC can pay for and distribute a mailing as long as we give them advance notice. So we'll see if we can meet the timeline for that. And that would not be area wide. That would be very expensive, but could be within a certain radius. So.
Yeah, I'd suggest, 10 blocks around the land maybe, or something like that, because the folks that use it the most are probably in walking distance of it, would be my guess.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. And then Steve, you had a question? Or do you mind to make a comment?
Yeah, I do. I just have some hopes that we could have maybe some people be interested in doing some footwork and all this. I think we're going to need some volunteers to work on some of this if we want a good sampling of people in the community and trying to get folks out to this. I have no idea how many people would show up to this. I think, Anna, we were talking about even having to have a PA system so we can have a discussion. Have no idea how many people would show up, but I would hope we could have 6 or 7, 8 people to help put some kind of bulletin out on people's doors or something, because I don't think it's all going to occur on any kind of computer thing or kind of email. So
yeah, thanks, Steve. And again, I mean, this is it's a little bit challenging with this project because, or this process that we're dealing with, because it is early, because we're not dealing with a specific development that's been proposed, and it's not even clear if it will be developed really, or if it is feasible to develop. So there's a lot of kind of unknowns, and we have a very compressed timeline. We had asked the municipality or the assembly for time over the summer, and they didn't grant it to us. So we are just moving as fast as we can. But yeah, I think there's several folks who have reached out in the last couple of meetings that are interested in this topic. So I've got emails and I will definitely be reaching out about outreach. We did talk about maybe knocking on doors or having a flyer, just anything to get out the word as best we can. So that's part of my project this weekend, is to get organized on that. Okay. And again, if you're interested in that, then please reach out and provide your contact information just in the chat or to the Turnigan email address, and then we'll follow up as best we can. Oh, Kathy, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I just wanted to emphasize that the board has talked about, and have communicated about who we're inviting to provide information as well. So we're wanting people to come to this event and provide their input, their thoughts. But there's, kind of some umbrella issue. Well, I don't even want to use the word issues, umbrella information with regard to that lot that we want to be able to provide through the appropriate parties at that gathering so that the council has more of our questions answered, as well as those who are also interested, the neighbors and anybody else who wants to attend this get together. So on the 21st. So that'll be a key element that we reach out and ask for the appropriate people to be at our meeting, if not to provide some kind of maybe briefing so that we can share it with those who attend, as well as at our council meeting in June when we discuss this and vote on something and present to the assembly by June 7th. So thank you, Anna.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll just say we're still working on the format of the meeting and just knowing the short timeline. So so again, we'll reach out as soon as we have more information to share. And Steve, I wonder if we could, because again, we weren't going to talk about it in detail today. So I wondered, did you have another question or?
No, that's fine. We can we have lots of questions we can deal with later.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay. So then those were our old business. So last on our agenda then we have is our committee reports, and I appreciate everybody sticking around for that. So I wonder if we could actually flip the reports because I think the Spinard Beach Park one will not take very long. And then we'll come back to the land use committee items. So just really briefly, the Spinard Beach Park Challenge Grant Committee. So Sarah Haley could not be here tonight, but she asked us to give an update. And just to say that is moving along. It's really great. There was a group who met out there. Kathy can provide more information about that, but looking at the placement of the specific amenities, the benches and other things that we fundraised for and will be able to install this summer. So that's really exciting. And this is something we started before COVID, and then it's kind of, limped along a little bit for a couple of years. So we're happy to see this coming to fruition. And then the other thing to note is, and Jackie's not here on the call, but Jackie Armstrong, one of our members, was very generous and donated a second bike rack to be put in at Spinard Beach Park. So there was one planned already, but she provided the funds to cover a second one. So that's exciting as well. And with that, I'll just see if I missed anything, Kathy.
Sure. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, that we just had 2 on-site meetings. So that was exciting. And we had Tom Perosi from Parks at our second on-site meeting the other evening. So we did with our spray can designate where we wanted the 2 benches to be placed. And they're going to be closer to the lake, like the current bench is, if you're familiar with that park. And then there's going to be 2 picnic tables closer to the parking lot area, one ADA accessible and one just a standard one as well. And as Anna mentioned, one of the initial bike rack was donated by, help me out here, Anna, is it Cook Inlet Housing or
Oh, shoot,
anyway,
I can't remember.
Yes.
anyway, they donated it right off the top. They had an extra one. It's got a float plane design up, so it's perfect. So we picked out the location for an initial one. And then Sarah had indicated at our on-site meeting that Jackie was donating a second one. So then we were able to identify another location. One will be closer to the parking lot. One will be out closer to where the benches are. And we don't have yet an installation date, but we're certainly going to get out the word and invite the neighbors to come when that all those wonderful amenities for our phase 1 for improvements to this park will be happening, and it'll be fun to see it. And as we had our on-site meetings, we got pretty excited about talking about future amenities, which we've kind of planned out in conceptually, and we hope to actually get some good outreach on fundraising. We had to put a big pause on that because of COVID, didn't feel comfortable requesting money from businesses that may have been hurting because of lack of tourism and all of that sort of thing, hotels and float plane trips for tourists and all that. So but donations were, stepped in and covered that for this first phase, but we'll do some outreach fundraising as soon as we see the installation of these first park facilities that will be a good addition to the area. So thank you so much, everybody who's participating in that. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, so just look for more information about that, and hopefully, I think by our June meeting, we might be able to have more details on that. We have to work with the Parks Department. Okay, so then our last item is our update from the Land Use Committee, and so there's two different items here, and I'll turn it over to Kathy and John. And I know there's a lot of folks who are interested in the Lake Hood issue that we started discussing earlier. So I'll turn it over to you guys. And then that's the last agenda item for tonight. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess John, I guess I'll jump in first.
Yes, sorry, John, you're on mute if you were speaking before.
Yeah, but John, feel free to talk. So, just as a real quick recap, the Turnagain Community Council found out about it when I sat in on a Lakewood user meeting last November about the relocation of the airport control tower to where the existing Charlie Parkey tie-down area is. And that obviously then will, trigger the relocation of the Charlie parking lot. And even though they made it clear both in November and again at their meeting in March that no site had been chosen for the relocation of Charlie parking, at that point, it was very clear that the airport was pretty well zeroing in on land east of the Lake Hood gravel strip. That's uplands and wetlands of Turnagain Bog. And certainly we have nearby Turnagain neighbors living in that area. So just literally within the last day or so, got wind that maybe the airport was looking at an alternate location to relocate Charlie parking, as was discussed a little bit earlier. And that would be west of Echo Parking, if you're familiar with that, along Lake Hood Drive and then Hilo. So we're just there will be a formal EA that was also referenced. That's an environmental assessment, but clearly the Land Use Committee feels like we need to be on top of this now. These are all, every place they may consider to relocate Charlie parking is going to be in Turnagain Bog Class A wetlands at the airport. And we have provided extensive comments on both east of the gravel run strip and west of Echo Parking for previous development proposals. So this is a challenging thing for the council to be involved with, but really, really important for our council, for the neighbors, for those who will be impacted. And so that's kind of where we're at now. We're just trying to get more information, identify more neighbors who are interested and getting involved. And certainly this is definitely one of those topics where we'll look forward to meeting with the director of the airport and other interested parties so that we can talk about potential ways to make this as painless as possible. And certainly one of the things we've talked about informally is, do we really need to replace 39 tie down areas? Because demand for tie down areas really has flatlined and is likely going to continue to decrease. So, those are just some of the things that we'd like to talk about and see where it would be best to move forward with this whole project in the context of the tower being relocated. So John, if you want to jump in and.
Yep, I guess a couple of suggestions. There's been a lot of email traffic back and forth, particularly with some of the neighborhood folks adjacent to the airport. And I think this new suggestion of going northwest of Echo is a good thing to consider, given some of the considerations that Kathy's mentioned. I potentially see 3 steps in this. One is that we probably want to have a land use committee meeting this month and invite folks who are the neighbors to come in and sort of take a look at what some of the issues, concerns, suggestions are. And then, Craig Campbell has graciously suggested we can have a meeting, and perhaps we could have a meeting with the airport once we've had that meeting with the land use committee to try to focus our concerns and find out where they are, what some of the options are, what some of the timing is. I think finding out what the FAA is doing with the environmental assessment is also going to be important in terms of their timeline when they're looking for public comments and making sure that we're participating effectively in that. So again, my suggestions are a land use committee meeting, then a meeting with Craig Campbell, and seeing how we engage with FAA when the EA starts.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Campbell, I know you're here, and I think, I don't know if others from the airport still are. So I know that,
Yep,
you know, we're not.
I'm here.
Yeah, if you have any comments or initial response or anything you'd like
No,
to share.
yeah, like I offered earlier on, be glad to meet with you. I think it's very healthy. Some of you know me, I've done master planning out at that airport since the 80s. And I saw, just like you did, when I saw the original plan of being just one location, I started questioning with staff. Staff said that there are other locations like the one that they're presenting at Echo Parking. We really want to hear what you have to say about it, because I think it needs to be considered as to where it would be and how much it should be. You know, the 2017 master plan took the east side of the gravel strip, put in a taxiway, and put in more than just 39 parking spots. And I'm not convinced that growth is going to be necessary. I think Kathy's point is that maybe it's slowing down, maybe isn't flattened as far as the needs are. We do know we've got Charlie parking that's got to be replaced, but we need to have a longer dialogue about what the future growth potential is out at Lakewood. And right now, all we want to do is make sure the FAA gets their control tower relocated, and we just remain whole. So I'm looking forward to a meeting. I've already sent an email to staff saying, let's get this thing scheduled so we can sit down, we can show you more stuff, we can talk about it. I can learn a little more about what your concerns are after you meet with some of the other neighbors, but we're very open to being a good neighbor with you.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds good. Craig, I've got to remind you that back in the mid 1980s, there were 325 float plane slips proposed in that entire area up to the Turnagain boundary.
I still have that.
I think you were kind of involved in that.
I still have it. I'll show it to you when you come by. Yeah,
I can still remember it. And fortunately, you know, that was probably one of the biggest attended council meetings we ever had. And there was, you know, a lot of
again.
Yeah. And so fortunately the airport backed off that idea, and here we are now talking about that same area. So obviously neighbors are concerned, and we certainly want to work with the airport to see what can be done.
You bet. Let's all get together.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. And so again, I'll remind folks, I think I recognized a lot of the names on here who are either on the land use committee already or have been tracking this issue. So again, it is certainly a priority, and there's just a little bit more organization we need to do, make sure everybody's on the same page. And as John said, maybe streamline some of the emails so that everybody's you know, not getting part of it and not all of it. So, and then also scheduling that land use committee meeting. So please just look for that. And then we don't always do this. Oh, and John put his email in the chat, so you can reach him there. You can also email tccpresident@yahoo.com, and then I can make sure that you're connected. And then, like I said, we don't always send out notice of our committee meetings, because often it's, you know, dealing with kind of routine land use, zoning issues, that kind of thing. But for this one, we do want to make sure people know, because I know there's a lot of interest in this, so we can always send out a notice through the FCC email a few days in advance, at least for folks who get notices that way, just to make sure everybody knows. And Kathy put her email address as well. So I'm guessing that'll get scheduled sometime in mid-May. So TBD on the date. Okay, well, we've then reached the end of our agenda. So I will see if I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, John Isaacs.
Seconded. Ken
Okay.
Gleason.
Thank you. Motion by John, second by Dan. Any objection to adjourning? Okay, hearing none, then have a good good start to your summer with the Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you again in June. And again, if you do want to stay involved, just please email us or get in touch and we'll get you connected. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Anna. Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.